Hello YouTube, I'm back again with another deck profile. I have done deck profiles in the past, but not recently. But I want to show you case this very interesting, intriguing profile that I've built, which I own in real life. Instead of doing all this mumbo jumbo stuff, I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Starting off, obviously, we're playing 3 Ash Blossom, comes in clutch, very popular hand trap, and helps take away the consistency of your opponent so they don't go into their first turn like plays, whether it means going to their big ace monsters as well as slowing them down. Obviously, we're going to play the we're maxed out on the Bystial package, and with the ones I'm going to mention, 3 Jerusalem, 3 Magnamut. Some people believe that the Jerusalem is a brick, but if you're playing a lot of link plays or you're going to a certain monster in your extra deck, it can be very useful on top of the fact that it's 2500 attack. So the whole point of this deck is that you'll notice a lot of the main monsters in this deck are a bunch of beaters. So you just want to beat the opponent as much as possible, dealing more damage. As well as the card to search, where we're obviously maxing on a Magnamut, because although it's during the end phase, allows you to add 1 dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to the hand, but itself, this ensures that we get more special summons, as well as we hit more targets in their graveyard, whether it's Tearlaments, whether it's Sprite, and this gives you the deck makes the deck more versatile because of the amount of flexibility it has with the Bystial cards since they're quick effects. And obviously we're going to play I shouldn't really say too much, we're playing the DPE package. I was originally playing the Red Eyes package, but I decided to cut for the Brand Fusion package, which works a lot better in several cases because you can debate on how you want to go into your fusion plays, and it doesn't lock you out into your summons. Like, for example, we're playing 1 Albaz, so even if you don't have Branded Fusion in hand and you have Dark Magician in grave, you can still be able to go into Albion as well as Dragoon. So that way you're not always heavily reliant on fusion, because if you don't draw into the brand fusion, you brick with the Dark Mission, you can just immediately go into an Exceed player, Link Summon, whatever. And you can always save Albaz for later in case they have a dark monster in the field. Obviously we're playing 3 Fenrir because not only does this card allow you to search not only is he the best searcher, allowing you to search a Kashtira monster including himself, he allows you to banish a face-up card face down whenever he attacks or whenever the opponent activates a monster effect. Something you guys should be aware of because of how popular he is, especially in the side. Kashtira Ogre, he himself is also very useful. Not the best Kashtira, but it's the fact that he allows us to add a trap. And although his effect isn't the most effective, like banishing a card that is being excavated from one of the top 5, you choose one of them and they go back in the same order, but it helps you search for another extender as well as him being extender himself. So that way you can pretty much look at your opponent's top 5 cards. If you see Tillmans, that's the first thing you want to bash. Or if they have main monsters that they want to have in their hand, you might as well just get rid of it because this effect is permanent as well as the other Kashtira. So we got Kashtira Unicorn. Obviously, this is a very important card in order to go into search Kashtira Birth as much as possible. Unicorn obviously allows you to add 1 Kashtira spell from our deck to our hand, and when he attacks or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish 1 card from your opponent's extra deck face down, and it isn't random, which makes it even more threatening. And obviously, you play the Dark Magician as well, the Brand Fusion package, because I will explain the purpose that it serves for this deck, but obviously we're going to go into 3 Dark Ruler to negate obviously our opponent's Omni negates as well as boards, so we can just pass by it a lot more easily, and that we don't have to worry about disruptions on the field depending on the monsters that are currently out there. 3 Droplet, although you have to send, but since we tend to play a lot of bricks, this card will come in handy, and it just makes sure that we could possibly deal more damage. So that's why we have Dark Ruler to assist us, but Droplet only assists us possibly just to outright not only negate the opponent's effects, but possibly do more damage and overcome like powerful monsters. 3 Fusion Destiny are aware similar. Like the one thing I forgot to mention about Brand Fusion is that you're only allowed to fusion something from the extra, but either way you're gonna beat your opponent with the monsters in your from the main decks. So like that's I said the restriction that Red Eyes Fusion is a lot more stricter compared to Branded Fusion, because Branded Fusion just restricts you from the extra deck, while Red Eyes Fusion restricts you from all summons basically, unless you set one. So this is so that we have more monsters, as well as like with Fusion Destiny pretty much does the same thing, but this is only after this effect resolves that that's where it restricts you, but it only restricts you after the card resolves. So the moment you do all your Xyz plays or Link summons, the last thing you want to activate is Fusion Destiny, though it does not apply for Fusion, Branded Fusion. So, like I mentioned before, we're playing 3 Kashtira Birth, not only basically a permanent monster born for Kashtiras, as well as being able to normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing, and if they manage to activate a spell card while you control a Kashtira monster, target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, banish them face down. 3 talents, obviously, so because there's a guarantee the opponent's going to try to activate monster effects during our main phase, so we benefit by either drawing 2 cards, gaining control of an opponent, gaining control of a monster, the opponent controls until the end phase, as well as looking at an opponent's hand, as well as choosing one random card, and then shuffling to the deck. 3 imperm, because the hand very useful hand trap, and still will never be a bad card. So the moment if you set it right in front of another face down spell trap card, the cards in that column spell traps cannot be able to activate the effects when this card is activated in that column. So cards that are activated in the same column, imperm was activated while set, are negated. Preparation's not the best Kashtira trap, although there's going to be getting new support, but it's not going to come up as often for the last effect. But during either player's turn, well, it's a hard one. You can special summon one of your Kashtira monsters that is banished from your hand, and if your opponent activates a trap card or effect, while you control a Kashtira monster, while this card is face up, you can look at your opponent's hand, banish one card from it face down. You get to choose. So that in itself makes you reap the benefit. So even though it's one of the slowest Kashtira cards, so if they manage to activate a trap while you control a Kashtira monster while the preparation is face up, you can choose any card from that and you banish it face down for free, basically. So, and rather than going to the side deck, this is all up to personal preference. We're going to go straight to the extra deck. Obviously, we're playing 1 Albion for our Branded Fusion target, because we want to be, in this strategy, we want to get access to more monsters on the field, even though we won't be able to get a lot more access to our other extra deck plays. But this is to help us get more negates as well as increase our board. So what he does is that his effect is very simple. A lot of times you're not going to really use the last effect, but if you want, you can just add Branded Fusion as discard fodder for Dragoon. So basically, if he's fusion summon, you can fusion some 1 level 8 or lower fusion monster from extra deck except Albion by banishing fusion materials on it from your hand, field, and graveyard. And during the end phase, we already know what it's about, but I'm not going to say too much since we're barely going to use this effect. So obviously we're playing Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. I'm sure you guys are aware what it does, I'm sure, because I explained this card a lot. Easy fusion summon, and then its effect always occurs when destroyed by a battle or card effect. So monsters your opponent controls lose 200 for each hero card in your graveyard, and you can also use one of the following effects, which is a hard once per turn. If once per turn, it's a quick effect, you can destroy both one card you control, one card on the field. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effects, you activate this effect. Special summon 1 Destiny Hero from your graveyard during the standby phase of the next turn, which means it includes itself. That doesn't mean accept itself, making it so that you have ways of constantly disrupting your opponent's plays, as well as having his monster around for most of the entire game. Similar situation, similar card that that relates to DP's effect, that helps having while out on the field, is Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Obviously cannot be destroyed by card effects, neither it can't be targeted by card effects, and depending on the number of normal monsters it's all depending on the number of normal monsters. Basically, depending on the number of monsters used to fusion summon it, you get to pop one monster on the field, and it's non-targeting, and you deal damage equal to its original attack. And once per turn, if your opponent activates a card effect, and if it's activated, you can still guard one card from your hand, negate the activation. Obviously, if it's destroyed, it gains 1,000 attack, so it becomes already immediately the best monster out there for the cost. Shangira, which is definitely one of the most probably third most broken card in the extra deck, because I wasn't aware until I knew the entirety of its effect during each standby phase. It's not the first effect, but I'm gonna explain that during each standby phase, you can special summon one Kashtira monster from your deck, and on top of that, each time a card your opponent owns and or possesses is banished face down, you can choose one unused main monster zone or spell trap card zone. It cannot be used while this card is face up on the field. So that in itself makes it even more broken, because although it has to be while this card is face up, so you can basically get rid of most of their zones depending how you utilize cards. And if you already have two or three or more different Kashtira monsters on the field that banish face down, if you do, it's like it's not once per turn, so it's like you can make the most out of this effect. Or no, you can only use the previous effect. So that means only this effect in itself is not once per turn either. So just like the last effect, if this card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. And our other extra deck monster we're playing is Wallow, founder of Druid Dragons. We don't care so much about the first effect, but we want to detach two to target one monster in the graveyard, either special summon face up or face down position. If it is not, set it to your field. So obviously we're going to go into a links, access code talker to possibly go for game, break boards. Palooza to have more than one negate, as well as when you go first, it becomes a lot more easier to utilize. BLS, Soldier of Chaos, because we have a lot of level 7 higher monsters in our main deck, which is mainly the Kashtira monsters. So in itself, it's just you gotta have this in your deck, because this card actually benefits with its effect, and you can utilize its full potential. As I'll read it to you guys. Give me a moment. Like I said, this card cannot be short by battle or cannot be targeted by card effects. Cannot be short by card effects, cannot be targeted with card effects, and only if it was used as if one of its link materials or more of it are level 7 higher monsters. So again, if it destroys a monster by battle, it either gains 1500 or most likely use the third effect, but this card can make a second attack during the battle phase of your next turn or banish one card in the field, which is usually the effect that we use. So I already don't need to explain too much of how these effects work, because I'm pretty sure where Boral Sword obviously OTKing and getting more attack points, and itself just again easy to summon. It's very generic. Dark, especially very useful now because darks are very relevant and are known to be the best attribute in this game. It helps us go into our Link 4 plays a lot more easier, and just giving us more summons, including all the other extra monsters, that do pretty much the same thing. And especially if it's something like if they have a DP of their own or a Dark Dragoon, you are pretty much in a very big you're at a huge overwhelming advantage, and then it's definitely going to put a lot of pressure on the opponent since they can't deal with they can't deal with two Dark Dragoon, depending if they're willing to do that. But in itself, if it's destroyed, you won't really even get to use the last effect, but it's mainly just to use as link fodder. IP, same thing, but you're most likely going to use it during the opponent's main phase to go into Appaloosa or Nightmare Unicorn, possibly. And you already guys are aware, we're playing the Nightmare package. Cerberus to pop a monster that's in the main monster zone, as well as draw a card. Pretty much what all of them do. Nightmare Phoenix, destroy one of your opponent's back row, or field spell to draw one card as well if co-linked. Same thing goes for Unicorn, but this allows you to shuffle any card on the field And then while it's cooling, you pretty much do the same thing, draw one, but obviously Unicorn's the best, even though it requires more materials. Again, I hope you guys understand the deck profile. The reason why I didn't want to explain the side deck, it's all up to personal preference, who you're up against, and it's really hard. I don't want to explain all the matchups I'm up against because I'm sure you guys are gonna guess who were my previous opponents and who may have been my what may have been the current matchup in my local area or my environment. But that's something that only that I know, that you won't know. For me, because a lot of decks will change eventually, and it's going to be hard to explain everything because I'm not familiar with every deck or what every deck that every opponent is going to bring, because a lot of times they do switch their decks because they want to either try something new, or they got bored of playing meta and then they want to be able to implement new strategies and try to do something innovative, like I'm just doing right now. If you see this list, it itself is innovative, and it gives you an idea of like that they're like deck creativity, deck building. You can still be innovative with deck building. You can try to be creative, and it might work out for you as long as you figure out the ratios and you figure out your you study up on your alternate strategies, as well as learn how to utilize certain combos and try to play a strategy that no other person can comprehend, that you are capable of. Because if you can make something that can work for you, that you're in a good spot. Is that because what I'm trying to say is that you can dictate your own strategy as well as try to play competitively, but you want it so that you can have fun as well and be able to try something that no one else can. Only you are capable of, and know the ins and outs of your deck, as well as trying out different cards or different variants to further make the deck more interesting. And you don't have to have every single card out there. You don't have to copy everybody else's builds, because there's really no point in even doing a deck profile if it's way too similar to someone else, because it makes watching deck profiles not worth even looking at, because it's like this is it just feels way too similar. It's like there's really nothing that helps advocate different strategies, as well as something entertaining, as well as something that you can utilize that people aren't aware of. So people are interested in something different and try to make things work for the cause of trying to be a great duelist, as well as trying to come up with your own ideas and make something succeed, even if it does not comprehend the other strategies that people are so heavily invested in. But again, I was pretty long-winded. Again, hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Hope you enjoy the video. Be sure to check for more upcoming content later in the future. Be sure to check your notifications, comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.